Hi, it's Writing Wednesday, and I was reading a novel this week that made a sweeping statement about, I guess, human nature and human life, which I'm not sure whether I agree with or not, but I do think it relates to an idea that I keep thinking about to do with writing, or more specifically with revising. I just changed camera angle because I didn't like the illusion that the light switch was growing out of my head. Hopefully this is better. Yeah, the novel I was reading was The Impossible Lives of Greta Wells. And one of the things that the narrator mentions several times is that there's a thing about you that everybody knows but you. And it's like the fact that's staring everyone in the face about your life, but for some reason you either don't recognize it or won't acknowledge it, which I thought was a really interesting idea, and I'm not sure it's universally true. But I think it's true that there are certain things that we try not to know, things that on some level we know, but we try to avoid the knowledge because if we confronted it, dealing with it would be too painful or difficult. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship and there's something about the person that you're with that everybody but you can see, again tying into that idea from the book, and you kind of know it too, but you're trying not to know it. And it's one of those situations where you never really know the truth unless you have an incredibly outspoken friend who says the thing that you've been trying not to say to yourself. So honey, you want to know the truth? The thing about Frank is a cheapskate. Oh yeah, no, you try to deny it. Watch next time we all go out to eat. Frank always finds a way to make sure somebody else picks up the bill. He does it all the time. I'm telling you, it may not bother you now, but you've been married to that guy a few years, you're going to start wishing he'd pay his share. Now the thing about this kind of advice, which very few real friends will give you because they don't want to lose your friendship, is that if your friend had said something completely different about Frank, like that he wasn't well read enough, or she didn't like his political views, you would be like, yeah, I already know that, but it really doesn't matter to me. It's not a deal breaker. I love him. But when she says the thing about him being a cheapskate, there's a little part of your heart that goes, I've known that. I've known that all along, and I've been trying to deny to myself that I know it. And you realize, maybe, even though you don't want to admit it, and you don't want to confront Frank or break up with Frank, your friend is right. He is a cheapskate. Now, please don't think I've strayed from giving writing advice to giving relationship advice. I am barely qualified to give writing advice. I am in no way qualified to give relationship advice. I'm working on an analogy here, so stay with me. When you give your manuscript to someone else to critique, they're going to come back with a lot of different comments and a lot of different things. I like this, I didn't like that. This worked for me, that didn't work for me. And a lot of it you're going to listen to and say, maybe, yeah, no, I don't really agree with that. I think I like it the way I have it. And that's okay. You got to trust your gut. You've got to trust your own instincts, even when you listen to smart people who are good readers critique your book. In the end, it all comes down to your own instincts. But there's that one critique, that one comment that is like your nosy friend's comment about your boyfriend. You got to listen to it. First of all, let me tell you, I love your novel. Great novel. Fantastic story. One of your characters, Susie, really not working for me. I don't believe in her. I just don't believe that a real person would think or act or do those things. I think you got her in there doing that stuff because you need her for plot, but it is not convincing to me, and it drags down the whole book because all the other characters are so believable, but Susie is a cardboard cutout. I'm sorry, but I gotta tell you the truth. You know, when you hear that advice, it hits you at gut level, just like the advice about the relationship, because it's what you feared all along. You knew when you were writing it that Susie's character wasn't working, that you were making her do things for the sake of the plot or for the sake of other characters that you hadn't backed up with motivation or made believable. And it's not until you hear somebody else say it that you're forced to acknowledge what deep down you've known all along. That's the brilliance of getting someone else to critique your work for you. It's not so much that they can see things you can't, although there's elements of that, but what's really valuable is when they see the things that you can see but are trying not to see. Because other people will blow right through your blind spots and say, look, you've been trying to convince yourself that this is working. You've got a lot emotionally invested, just like in the relationship with Frank. It's going to be hugely messy and tangly to try to solve this problem, but in the end, you know it's what you've got to do. That's kind of what happens to me every time I get a critique. It's kind of where I am now with this, what I hope is semi-last revision of this novel. I'm trying to put into practice some of the things that my good friends told me during critique that deep down I kind of knew. And I really think we all have that with our writing. Things that we know are not working, but we lie to ourselves and try to convince ourselves that they do work. And it really takes that nosy friend, who hopefully is also a good critic, who's not afraid to tell you the unvarnished truth and hopefully make your book a better book. Because unlike the relationship with Frank, your book is salvageable, and it will be better if you take some good advice, which is what I'm going to go do now. Also going to buy some more wigs, because I'm getting tired of this one.